Hello, everyone. Glad to see you back here at Silver Tears Tarot. And of course, a warm welcome to those of you who are new. So, I wanted to do another thank you video for you today. I did one in September and I wanted to do one in October too because you guys have given me a lot to celebrate. So, I'm pleasantly surprised to have hit 100 followers on Facebook, and then around mid-month we crossed the 200 mark on YouTube subscribers. So that's us. That's this collective getting even bigger. So thank you. So this one we'll do it the same way, where I'm going to do a general soulmate check-in reading and just see what messages are out there for you. But instead of having the extended be a separate video, I will just film the two together. So after the regular reading, I'll clean up the cards and then I'll do the extended. So I'll do that right here on YouTube. Usually it's a separate link that you go to purchase the Vimeo for the extended, but for the thank you reading, giving you the free extended reading is part of me saying thank you. Um, and I really want to say thank you. This has been such an amazing ride, and I owe it all to you guys and your amazing support. You know, you've come together in this beautiful collective. I love doing these readings for you. Um, and the healing that's happening here is just palpable, you know, because I talked to some of you in person, and what I've noticed when you reach out to me in person, one of the things that I am most amazed by is your resilience and your passion to continue down that path of healing. Like, you people are hardcore, and I love everything about it. You've got something by the tail, you know, and you're after solutions and a better way to live, you know. Um, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to behold, and I am completely honored to be a part of it as the reader. And honor really is the best word. I'm honored to be here with you. I'm on this healing journey too, and I can really relate to this passion that you all have for the healing journey itself. So I'm amazed by you. I love you guys so much, and I just wanted to say that. So, as this collective grows, remember these remain general readings for all signs. The readings are also timeless, so you'll be more drawn to readings when it's the right time for you to get the messages. And it won't resonate with everybody, but if it does with you, please do like, share, and subscribe so that we can stick together. So first, looking at the big idea, we're looking at what's happening in the soulmate journey, just what messages want to come out. And we're going to start with that big idea. And so this is the main idea. The reading is wrapped around this. What is the main idea for this reading? Okay, and we have the Nine of Swords coming out in reverse. All right, so this is it's minor arcana, but it's a really powerful energy. So the Nine of Swords coming out in reverse is the equivalent of energy, or I'm sorry, anxiety going away. So Nine of Swords in the upright is having trouble sleeping. You often see a person depicted having trouble sleeping. It's just often on the card itself. But it's anxiety, and it's like you can't shake it, you know, it can't even get any peace. And so that sense is going away. That's kind of the main idea that pops out for us in this reading. So that's a good start. Of course, we'll know a little bit more when we clarify. So I'm reading for you from the Dark Wood Tarot, and then I'm going to clarify with the Tarot of Dragons here in a minute. So let's look at that energetic backdrop. So here that's how I like to ask this question. What's the energetic backdrop? Because we've got kind of the main idea, which is that anxiety falling away, or it's you rising above it. It might be a more appropriate way to say it. And then this energetic backdrop is just kind of going to be it's the setting. It's that overarching energy, the weather of it. And this is going to be good to have. So we have the Ace of Swords, which is the truth. Okay, so the energetic backdrop is something about the truth, but it feels to me more like an important truth coming out, an important truth coming out. And this is happening in concert with the fact that this truth is coming out does not necessarily drive that lack of anxiety. It may be you rising above that anxiety despite the fact that things are becoming a little bit more clear in the big picture. So, and in fact, maybe it is part of it. So we'll have to see. It depends on how the clarifiers fall, and of course, it depends on your own situation. And but the energetic backdrop is that of truth. Um, let's see what's sticking out the most about your soulmate situation right now. I love asking this question because it's not necessarily going to be that big idea, but it's really going to be an energy that matters. And so, just taking this top card, I typically like to just take the top card unless I'm guided to take more. We have the High Priestess, but it's coming out in reverse. Okay, so this is about reaching and connecting with that intuition, that intuitive energy, that higher self, higher power sort of connection. And so, with it in the reverse, though, we see that there's a bit of a disconnect there. So, that is something that you're going to want to be aware of, whether it's on your part or your person's part. It's really going to impact the situation. Remember, this is something that sticks out the most about the situation. We have you rising above your anxiety here, we have a backdrop of truth, we have this situation where there's a disconnect somewhere between a person and their higher selves. Could even be for both of you, but we'll have to see when we clarify. And this will be good when we move into the extended too, because it'll feel more coherent. Because remember, I'm going to do this reading and the extended both on YouTube with no charge for the extended, just as a way to thank you all for supporting me. Plus, if you've never seen an extended, this will be your opportunity to see one. So here we want to see what else spirit, what sort of corollary to this one, what else does spirit want you to know about what's happening in your soulmate cycle right now? Is that a single card? No. If I just have a single one, okay, we've got one turned over in the deck, but it's not the one we need. Yeah, and if I just have a single card fall, then I'll turn that one over and use it. Um, but if it's multiples, I tend not to do that. Okay, so we're wanting to dive in just a little bit deeper. This is that deeper dive sort of card, and we've got one that just turned over. Okay, it's the World card in reverse. So we'll take a look at that one. We'll take a look at it in the upright. So the World card in the upright is like a happy ending. It's that it's the end of the fool's journey, and it's after things have passed judgment, and you have then that happy ending, that just wonderful experience. It's very much happy ending sort of encapsulates a lot of it. When you have it in the reverse, then there's different things that could happen here. But what I'm seeing is the story hasn't ended yet. So the upright is really more of an end of a cycle sort of energy as well. And here we see that cycle is not ending. So you have something where you're maybe not feeling as anxious about it. The truth is coming out. There's a connection needed to a higher power and to your higher selves, but this story is not over. So let's take a look here at the hidden energies. And really, this is just kind of what you can't see from where you're standing. What can't you see from your perspective? All right, that's multiple cards, but I think one turned over. Yep. Okay, so we have the moon, but it's the moon in reverse. So this is about secrets coming out. And so we know that there's some element of truth that is being exposed in this situation, but it looks like we've also got mysteries that are being shown, things that are truth is coming out. So it's more that something that's previously been hidden. And we know that we've just had this eclipse energy too. And so this almost has that new start sort of feeling to it. Ace of Swords with the truth coming out definitely has a newness sort of energy to it. but I'm almost getting more of that off the moon. So we'll have to see what happens when we clarify. So let's take a look at what is most likely that you're heading toward based on the energy. So I like to say this is the energy to which you'll be adding your free will. It's not really the future per se, because that's no one can really tell you um, what someone's going to do with their free will. But we can say, here's which direction the energies are really facing. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here. So we actually have a couple cards that want to come out for this one. And let's take a look at these. I'm going to put this one aside. And let's take a look. So we have the Death card in reverse and the Hanged Man. Okay, so this feels like screeching to a halt, the two of these cards together. And here's why. So it's like this new perspective has been gained, and with that, all of a sudden, there's a change that was about to be made, but suddenly you're not going to make it. It's like you were going to make a turn down a road, and at the last minute, the GPS reoriented itself and said, wait, don't turn, keep going the same way that you were going, you know. And so you jam on the brakes and don't make the turn and instead straighten out, you know. So it's almost got that sort of energy. Let's see. I don't know what the rest of traffic looks like, so I don't know if that's a big deal or not. It's different if you do that, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning and there's no traffic and you're in a small town. Pretty different from if you do that on the freeway and you are in danger of causing a huge car, you know, a pileup. But that's definitely the energy of what is headed up next in the energy. So this is interesting. We've got, you know, I originally said anxiety falling away from you, but it really does feel like you rising above the anxiety, even though we've got a situation that isn't ending, a cycle that isn't ending. Something is not over. Um, but there are new truths coming out, and these two want to be read together as well. So we've got the new truths coming out, the mysteries that are being kind of shown and exposed, and it feels like there is a newness to that as well. So these are, again, this is that hidden energy. So this is something that should be unfolding here as we you know, for you it doesn't matter when you see this. It's because the readings are timeless, but this is the energy of the moment, you know. That's what I want you to pay attention to, the fact that this is really that hidden energy, but when we know we've got some truth coming out into view. And to that, we're going to add some mysteries that are just now kind of coming into view. But we've still got this situation here where we have someone who is not able to follow their intuition completely, or not able to connect with their higher selves as easily as maybe they'd like to. But there is still this feeling that here's what's coming next, and maybe it is a connection, but basically it's a stopping short and redirecting sort of energy. I was going to make this change, but now I'm not going to make it because I have a new perspective, and it does have this feel to it that's very sudden. So let's go ahead and start clarifying this. Just kind of see with the Tarot of Dragons. Let's start with the Nine of Swords in reverse. Got one, and there's two. Okay, yeah. It made it simple for me. Okay, so we have Temperance and the Ten of Wands. All right, this helps. And this is kind of what I was feeling. So when I was saying it's you rising above the anxiety instead of the anxiety falling away from you, it's development on your side. So it's a movement toward balance. This temperance really is about balance, and it's about having come through or coming through the other side of sort of a difficult situation. So in one of my decks, there is a forge card. And one of the things that I really love about it is it reminds me of, you know, being broken down into your basic elements and then sort of built back up. And that's what happens in the forge. You get forged into something. And this temperance card sort of has that same feel to it, where there's been something very difficult that's happened. We have that supported here by the Ten of Wands. And this is in this deck, it's like a flaming Ten of Wands, but it's a burden either way. And it is just really difficult to move with this. And there comes a point where either through burnout or just the realization that you can no longer carry this, you have to set this down. And that's kind of what it feels like right here. There's this huge burden to it, but there's also this balance that's been growing. And, I was just raving about, the balance and the healing that is happening within this collective. So I am in no way surprised at the beauty of this energy, but it's like I said, it's minor arcana, but it's almost got this empress energy to it. So just something to think about. This is your energy that's coming out, and it's in that main idea space. So that's kind of the main idea of the reading. Remember, it's you coming into your own a little bit there. So now let's take a look at this Ace of Swords and understand that. We know it's truth coming out. Um, and that doesn't necessarily feel like new truths, even if it's newly available. Like this moon feels like there's a lot of newness to it. Ace of Swords, because it's an ace, has that new beginning sort of feel to it as well. But it's just got that sort of truth sort of feeling more than anything else. And there's a sense of investment here, investment in that truth. It's much easier. Okay, this is a big source of healing for you, and you may or may not see it coming. So, learning the truth actually turns out to be a bigger deal for you than it seems like it's going to be. You may know that it's going to be a big deal to learn about the truth, whether it's good or bad, just to understand kind of what's going on. But it turns out this is even truer than you realize, and it bolsters you in some really interesting ways. We also have the Six of Wands, though, so it seems like that bolstering is going to be needed because the Six of Wands talks about victory after a long battle when it's in the upright here. But when it's in the reverse, it's that victory not really, the battle isn't over. We know the story isn't over from this card over here, but just, feeling like even with this new truth that's emerging, we still, that doesn't get us completely out of the woods. However, you do get a big burst of energy by realizing how much it means to you to understand your situation a little bit more. And honestly, if you're a person who's evaluating your situation from all these different angles, even including watching tarot readings, and if you're attracted to my tarot readings, then you're attracted to something that is a little bit more of a balance between the logic and the emotion while still being in awe of the spiritual energy, and that seems like the sort of collective that we are growing here. But if that's the case, then this doesn't surprise me. But the feeling is pretty fantastic. Understanding these new truths is instrumental in the healing, and that's really a big part of what needs to happen here. So let's look at this high priestess, and remember, this is somebody not really digging in or not really being connected with their higher self, and it's like being disconnected with the bottom of the iceberg. And your conscious side is the top of the iceberg. So just taking those top cards again, let's take a look here. So we have the high priestess in the reverse, we have the four of wands in the upright, and then we have the nine of swords again in the reverse. So this is the same card that we have here in that driving energy, the energy that's driving the reading. The reading is wrapped around this energy of moving away from that anxiety and rising above it. So this is critical. Are you doing it despite needing a greater connection with your higher self? Because it seems like there is a lot of stability here. But what it feels like to me, even more than that, as I'm feeling it, and I'm feeling this Four of Wands, this is what's making me feel like it. So, your person, it feels like there is something very stable in their energy that makes them feel numb if they don't dig into it too deeply. This is important. So if they don't, they can mirror you with this energy of feeling like you're rising above. This is anxiety falling away, as opposed to you rising above the anxiety. So your person, it feels like they're making the anxiety fall away by numbing themselves. And so, in some cases it could be numbing. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm not necessarily saying your person's on drugs or they're drinking a lot, although they totally could be. But the other thing that I'm seeing is, this disconnection with your intuition and your higher self is the supreme way to numb yourself. Like just not being connected to the rest of your iceberg. If you are, your awareness is that, your consciousness is that part of the iceberg that's above the water, and the part below is a lot more. There's a lot more mass to it. There's a lot more to it, but it's also what supports you. It's the reason that you stick out of the water. And if you lose your connection to that, it can be a little disorienting, but it can also be a little disconcerting and numbing. And so here's a person who's kind of relying upon that. So just something to also be thinking about with respect to them. They've got something that is in their life, keeping them feeling relatively stable, and they're clinging to it. They're clinging to it. They really are. The natural way of things for things that are alive. They tend to go toward pleasure and go away from pain. And you've got your person who's wanting to go away from pain, and their way of doing that is numbing themselves away from the rest of that iceberg and that higher power, higher self. It all kind of melts in together, and that intuition, that disconnection from the intuition is really the key there. Let's take a look here at the world in reverse and see what's going on there. We've got one card. It's the Queen of Swords in reverse. Okay. So remember, this one's about something not being over, a cycle not being over. Three of Swords in reverse. Okay, maybe this cycle needs to play out for a little while longer, but let's see why. So there is a vulnerability and an openness that needs to occur here, and also an I want to say like the unbreaking of somebody's heart. But really it's the okay, so I have this term that I'm sure I didn't create, but this is what I call it. I call it healing in place. And so basically this is a person, and I feel like you both are doing this, but definitely you. You're finding your healing in a situation where things are not necessarily going your way, but you're still going for those truths, and it really matters to you to receive them. You're not done here because of exactly what I didn't know why I said it earlier, but now it feels very connected. When I said you had something by the tail and you wanted to figure it out before you let it go, it has to do with vulnerability. It has to do with unbreaking your heart or finding the solutions, some of the things that are going to help you to feel a lot better about things. And we see over here that having the truth sort of shine down is one of those things, because your investment in your own healing is bolstered, even though maybe you also are feeling like you're two steps forward, one step back. You're ready for it because this truth starts to come out, and that's so liberating for you that the benefit far outweighs the cost. And so that's part of what helps to start unbreaking your heart. There could be other lessons like this, something that's led you to put this down, whether it's been through burnout, just being terribly emotionally dependent, or there's a lot of different ways that this could play out. But at some point, you set it all down. You set it all down, and you seek that balance, and you end up finding it because you're finding the healing. And some of what I guess causes that healing is not what you would guess. And that we see that is, I feel that here and I feel that here. So let's take a look at this moon card and clarify this now. And this was in that hidden energy. So it's basically, you don't yet see it, but things are becoming much more illuminated. The sun, speaking of illumination, that is the card of illumination. It's also the card of happiness. I think this is a single one, yes. And so we have the Two of Pentacles, balance. We have illumination, happiness, and balance. And so those are things that are coming out with this moon card. The moon card is, again, truth coming out, but this is like newly released truths somehow. There's something about this is not especially new, but it's just like ringing from the rooftops. This is newer. It feels like mysteries are being released. It means more, and you end up very happy as a result of this. I'm super curious about this now. I want to understand kind of what's happening. And when we go into the extended, which I'm just going to clear the cards and we're going to go into the extended. So we'll start thinking about our questions now. And I always tend to gather them while I'm in the regular reading, you guys notice. So we're going to watch how um, the extended is done a little bit differently. Basically, I'm going to take some questions that come from here, and then we're going to answer them one at a time, do all of our clarifiers on the individual question before we move on to the next. But you'll see all of that. And I think I might be formulating a question here about maybe all of this truth, but definitely about this new truth here that's going to bring you this sun of happiness. And I wonder if these are somehow related because this investment in your healing, just you blossom in this energy. But I see balance here, I see balance here. These are beautiful things. And how much does your person share in it? I'm curious because I see them in kind of a difficult place over here. So let's take a look here before we go over to the extended, because it'll be this is that feeling of stopping short at the intersection, and instead of making a turn that you were planning to make, deciding that you're going to do something different. So let's see. So we have the Fool. Okay, so that something different that you're deciding to do is a huge leap of faith. Um, this may not be you. This may not be you. This may be your person. I guess, it's so hard to distinguish you from your person in this reading. And actually, a lot of your readings, because you're so tied together, you've got these deep soul connections in a lot of cases where, and you can feel it. You can feel it even if you're in separation. This is different from other situations. And that's what I keep hearing from all of you. This is different. I've had this before, but it didn't feel like this. This is something that's a little bit different. And so I noticed so much of that, being hard to tell the difference between the two of you. Because, when you get a tarot reading or you watch one on YouTube or something and they say energies could be reversed, it's because you're picking up the energy of the union. And so it could very much be reversed. But in this case, it's super interesting because it almost feels like it's between the two of you. And then we have the shaman in reverse. Okay, so something can't happen. Something can't. We got to definitely look at this in the extended. Okay, so we've got that sense of jamming on the brakes and changing direction because of a new perspective. And around that new perspective, the clarifier is something here can't happen. But the reason that you're jamming on the brakes, it's to change direction, and the direction is it's jumping off a cliff. It's like it's trying something anyway. Is it the same thing that can't happen? That's what I'm curious about. Or, is it this is a very abrupt and sudden change sort of energy. Um, yeah, this is really interesting. So I think as we're looking at questions that we'll ask in the extended, I think we need to expand a little bit on what is likely to happen next here, because this is that energy that you're heading toward, and again, that energy to which that free will energy would be added, right? So there's this Fool energy on top of a here's a change not happening. I suddenly have a new perspective. I'm gonna jump into something because my I can't there's something that can't happen. So that is really interesting. We're going to take a closer look at this because depending on whether it's you or your person, it could have a slightly different meaning. And it might even be that it's kind of coming together and I'm seeing them together. So we'll take a deeper look into this and just kind of understand more about what is that shift in direction, but also that leap of faith and energy that we see, even though we've got like a challenge, hands are tied. I also want to understand a little bit about what's happening with this new truth and kind of what is the impact of that. Because we need to understand a little bit more about what is happening too with how do you and your person get to where you want to go. So one of my questions that I like to ask in the extended readings is this bridging question, and it's like, how do you get from where you are, because your person is in kind of a difficult place here, but I see you in a transitional period. So that's already, maybe you're already on the bridge, but we need to understand between the two of you kind of what are the changes that need to take place to get you where you want to go. And I purposely leave that vague because everyone's goals are slightly different, but even though they're still they're similar enough that we can draw cards on them. So That's what we're going to look at when I clear the cards and do the extended. We're going to understand what's kind of happening next, what is truly the impact of this, and maybe even more the nature of this experience that we're seeing here with new information, and also that bridging energy that has to happen to kind of get you guys to where you need to go. Because we can see that this isn't over. There's a heart being unbroken. This is both of you, but I feel like I feel like you're farther along on this path than your person is. But there's also a vulnerability that has to happen here. So before we go, I'm going to clear the cards and then I'm going to do the extended here in front of you. I want to pull a couple of advice cards and just kind of understand. And this is overarching advice for you as you're dealing with this situation, because one thing we can say about it is it's not, even though we've got kind of a quick thing happening here, overall, this whole process does take some time. And so as you're moving through it, sometimes there's different things that you can be focusing on that'll be beneficial for you. And so the question is kind of, what would you be best benefited by focusing on? What would that be? Okay. So increase. All right. So what's cool about these cards is they have these different categories. Okay. So this one is the category is cycle and the card is increase. So I think we've seen this one come up somewhat recently. I can't remember if it was a YouTube reading or a personal reading, but the cycle of increase. A lot of times, what you'll feel in the cycle of increase is a lot of things coming toward you, a lot of abundance, lot of intensity and just more, you have to go through a cycle of decrease to kind of peel some of that away so that the increase has a place to put things, but it seems like you're in a cycle of increase now. And I'm going to set this over here because I think it's relevant here to this place where you're rising above the anxiety. But we've got one more card. So the category here is spirit, and the card is your higher self. So this is like tailor made for your person, and this one is tailor made for you. But the thing to remember here is that connection to the higher self, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but even if this is more about your person, there's probably still always a message in there for you. So this person has something that's keeping them comfortable, some kind of balance, or something that makes them feel like I don't want to rock this boat because I want to keep the anxiety gone. And in order to do that, I numb myself. So what's the story here? And this advice is kind of for them and for you to be accessing your higher self. Make sure you don't stop doing that. But this cycle of increase, really, you've got to open yourself up. One of the things that has to happen for increase to be successful is you have to open yourself up to allow for things to be possible. And it seems like that's what's happening here with the setting down of the burden, with gathering together some balance. And it's balance that is well earned. That's the thing about temperance. And that Nine of Swords rising above the anxiety, it's like every day you're a little bit better. And it's even things that you wouldn't necessarily expect that are helping to drive your healing. So that's super uplifting, as we look at it. But let's understand, we're going to go into the extended here. About the story that's happening with you and your soulmate. And we're going to understand once again, tell us a little bit more about what's happening with this abrupt change in direction. Tell us a little bit more about the impacts of this truth and the kind of the nature of this truth situation. And then also what is going to be needed for you guys to be bridged into the place that you want to go. So that is what we're going to look at here in the extended. And this is one of my favorite ways to do the readings. I loved doing this when we did this back in September, and I was looking forward to it today. So I want to shuffle these in because I don't want all of the cards that were just together to be together again so that we have stuff falling out together. If it comes out again, it's okay. Sometimes a message just needs to be repeated between the reading and the extended, but we want to make sure that it happens not because the deck wasn't shuffled well enough. So this is going to be interesting, kind of moving into these questions. We're going to use the same decks to do this reading than we just used. So, and we're going to use them in the same order. So I think it was one of my early readings. I actually switched the order where it just felt like it needed to go vice versa. So it would be like using the Tarot of Dragons here. I don't know if you guys are watching any of this stuff coming out, or if you can even read it, but it's an interesting story. Anyway, it would be like switching that out and doing the main reading with the Tarot of Dragons, and then clarifying with the Darkwood. But not today. We're going to keep it like it was. Okay. So remember, our first question was kind of, can you, you know what? I want to make the first question how does the truth really impact this situation? What's the nature of that? Because that was a powerful central theme to the reading. Lovers, okay. And then the hermit wants to be seen. So it doesn't want to come out as part of the reading. So it's not going to be on the table. But there is an element of going into your thinking caves and really having to build your wisdom. You need a break to build some wisdom. And so, both of you, if you're in separation, that's part of what this is. But this is about, honestly, it's about a choice in love. But the Lover's card, it's very much about in this case, it's got this feel. So every time you pull a card, it's got all of these potential options as far as what it could mean, but there's usually one thing that really sticks out. We have a choice in love here, but we also have that soulmate element. We were talking about that deep soul connection, and I guess that's what's popping out here. So this truth that's coming out is relevant to this. Could even be about your person realizing this. Oh, and the Hermit is coming out anyway. You guys see that? All right. So we'll use that as a central theme then, as far as what this illumination is telling us. And you see, she's got a lantern here. And so, to a certain degree, that illumination, that new truth that's coming is you still have to go in your cave. That message from earlier is true, but it's related to this. You still have to go in your thinking cave and find your wisdom. Take that moment to make sure you're headed the direction that you want to be heading and that you're able to say, I'm doing things for the right reasons. So, we're going to go ahead and clarify these. We'll clarify the Lover's card first. We've got the Hierophant in reverse, something traditional, untraditional, maybe non-traditional about this union. And it may be something that you don't even realize. Like maybe there's a religious difference that hasn't come out, it's about to. But knowing that is turns out to be very helpful, I guess. But there is something that is definitely not traditional, not following a traditional teaching, and that's part of what's creating some of the pressure and some of the difficulty around the choice. But we've also got a door opening, and it's a door that opens very slowly. So the Ace of Pentacles is very slow, slow energy. It's slow but sure, slow but steady. And it's this illumination, like it's like you could only have things illuminated a little bit at a time, because you can only take in so much of it at a time and truly work through everything. And so be patient. You have that temperance that came out in the first reading, and that temperance is about how you've grown so much more patient in the face of this situation, because faced with this relationship with this person on a soul level, it's kind of difficult for some of you, I think, even to just fathom. Maybe it kind of came at you from a direction you weren't exactly. I definitely get that it was a surprise for a few of you, not necessarily something that if the door had opened quickly, you might have tripped going through it. And there is something here for you to learn about something that's either not traditional or it's not following a traditional teaching. May also be a difference between the two of you, and that sort of difference, it is anything that matters to you. So if it's a religious difference, I brought that one up because it was one that popped into my mind, but it won't be true for everybody. For some people, religious differences may not be as big of a deal. But there is something here. So it could even be an age difference. For some people, that's no big deal. For some people, it is. So something here is a big difference that matters to you guys, and it is part of why this is a challenging choice. But there's a door opening, and as those new truths that we saw coming out on YouTube, those are helping to heal you, and it's helping to illuminate things for you, which we see down here. But it's like it's got to get through to you and both of you a little bit at a time because it's kind of too much for you to take all at once. I definitely feel like that. So we have, what is that? The Knight of Wands and the Temperance card again. Okay, so let's look at these guys together. We have the Hermit card flanked by the Knight of Wands and Temperance. Okay, so the Knight of Wands is, it's a card of action. But it's passionate action. It's very, I was going to say heading out to slay dragons, but maybe that's not super appropriate using the Dragon's Tarot, but it's kind of a, it's a willingness to go forth, be very passionate with that forward action. And this light, this illumination, it's almost like what I'm feeling here is a familiarity that grows between you as the illumination happens, as they realize and you realize kind of what the nature of the relationship is. There's this familiarity that grows that makes it much easier to come toward one another in a passionate way where you're very confident and sure about yourself. But there's also this balance because in order for this to happen, you both have like kind of run into each other, hit a wall, and fallen back, you know. And so you have to be able to stand up, shake it off, and figure out how to be in balance, which is kind of what I saw happening as with the rising above that anxiety energy in the earlier reading where we had temperance card. This temperance card came out to say, you know, here's some of the balance that you're striking. And it was a very powerful temperance card when it did come out. It's powerful here as well, but it has a lot to do with the, like, almost a more traditional sense of temperance where you are able to have more of, it's like the King of Cups upright, but in a good way. With the, I have emotional stability, but it's because of this wisdom that you go off and you find. So this illumination helps you to better handle the overall situation, but it's got to come at you little by little. Otherwise, it's very hard to take all at once. I'm getting that sense pretty strongly. However, there comes a point where it's like a tipping point where all of a sudden you are able to come back together because of that sense of familiarity and really come back toward one another. So, I'm wondering though what's going to happen next because this was us looking at the illumination situation and the truths that are coming out and the mysteries that are being exposed and what is the impact of that and kind of a little bit more of the nature of it. So we see that, but we also saw there was this abrupt jamming on the brakes change in plans. You know, it was, if I was going to change direction, now I'm not. Or if I was going to go, you know, keep going at the intersection, now I'm going to turn, or something to that effect. So let's understand that a little bit more because that one, what is this change in direction? What is this? We know there's a choice that you're being presented with here. So we've got the Seven of Wands. Okay, the Seven of Wands is kind of a interesting, sort of a fighting for it sort of attitude. But it's with the confidence feeling like you can. And the Ace of Wands being in reverse is a passionate new start that's not getting off the ground for some reason. And so this is, let's get some clarifiers because this is kind of interesting. This Ace of Wands, I get the sense that it's something passionate that's not getting off the ground right away. But remember that manifestation or that Magician card came out in the reverse saying, hey, I'm having trouble manifesting this. Something here can't happen. Something isn't working. And it's this Ace of Wands. So the passion is here, but for some reason it's not translating into actually making it happen. There's still a battle here. And even though you hold the high ground, or maybe you two together, I get the sense that you two together hold the high ground. What does that mean? So let's go ahead and look at that Seven of Wands. We've got the Five of Wands here. That is a struggle. However, I want to say something else about that. The Five of Wands is a struggle. It's difficulty, but it is also, the Five of Wands has the potential to line up. It's like you have these really powerful lights that are, you know, all struggling to light things. And if you were to take all five of them and point them in the same direction, it's still Five of Wands energy. It just isn't the pieces struggling against one another. So there is an opportunity to turn this into something that's useful, which doesn't surprise me with that Seven of Wands energy there, because that is here I'm fighting for something. Oh, and by the way, I have the advantage. So she looks like she's in the middle of figuring out that she's about to have to fight for something, but the cool thing is that she will ultimately end up with the advantage. The Chariot card is possibly that advantage. So the Chariot card, it represents that intrinsic, it's coming from inside you, the push to move forward, where so like the wheel of fortune in comparison is the universe moving you forward. The chariot is you. The impetus is coming from within you, and it's really coming from within the two of you. And so this is here's what's coming next. There's in this inflection point, I guess, that's coming up. There's definitely a choice in there. And it's a choice that maybe isn't a new choice, but the perspective, we know that there's a new perspective that arises on it because we saw that on YouTube. And we also see that there's something that it's going to be relevant, that there's this difference between the two of you, or that you're not moving along some sort of prescribed spiritual path. But you're also going to notice that as things are opening up to you, you're learning more. And it's making you much more invested in the situation. You're getting to a point where the two of you are going to feel a lot more like you understand things, you understand each other, you feel more connected, and you're able to move back toward each other, but this time in more of a sense of balance, which is all I would wish for you. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So, this Seven of Wands, though, is saying, hey, I'm ready to fight for it. This Five of Wands tells us, okay, yes, and it's difficult, but it does not have to be an uncoordinated struggle. We could actually put our heads together because this is the two of you against the world. Not really, but it's against the odds. And this is you could actually put your yourselves together, your power together, and you have this advantage also of the two of you being prepared to move forward and this impetus. But we also know for some reason we saw there's a new perspective, but it can't happen. But it was that manifestation energy, something getting in the way of that. And we see that here too, because there's passion to move toward one another. There's some reason that that's not quite materializing. So let's look into that one. We have the Queen of Pentacles. Oh, there's somebody in the way here, and they've got a lot of power. This is interesting. And then we have the Two of Cups in reverse. So this partnership between you and your person is threatened by another force. Could be a person. So if the Queen of Pentacles is a person, it is a very strong force in this person's life. It could be a wife, a husband, a mother, a family member, a father, somebody that has a lot of sway in this person's life, and they think of this person as someone that helps to take care of them. So you remember we saw that Four of Wands in their energy, and it's a lot easier for them to just dull things and be be numb about it than it is to actually deal with and change things. We saw that they had turned their intuition off, that they felt like they were supported or stable in some way. This is what's creating that stability. It's the Queen of Pentacles. So if this person is married, this is their wife, their home life, their family situation saying, you don't have the option to make a change. That's why something can't happen. But up here, I'm seeing, oh, yes, it can. So I'm super curious to understand, because down here, you're kind of being pulled in two directions, which sort of makes sense because we noticed this was an inflection point where suddenly, instead of doing something that was going to be the path, it's like you screech on the brakes and then you change direction. And so here, we see the two of you. Well, we saw the familiarity building down here and the passion to move forward. We see that there is something that is wanting to stop you here, maybe even a person or a situation that wants to stop your partnership and make your partnership not happen. But we also see that drive to move forward, and that the fact that you guys actually do have an outrageous amount of energy working toward you or working for you for this. So it is not a slam dunk. I would not say that this is obvious which way this is going to go. But what I will say is the two of you with this illumination become a lot more aware of what you're actually dealing with. And that is a big deal. That is a big deal. So we saw that it was, in that it was helping to heal you in some ways. So this cycle couldn't be over because your heart still had to be unbroken. And part of it is like these strange and surprising lessons that somehow make you feel more whole and more like you're unbreaking your own hearts. And it's, remember, we saw the, just the truth coming out. One of the impacts of it was like you felt better about this. And if it's, it really feels like that's what's happening here. It feels like you're finding out more the, not just the value, but kind of the nature of your relationship here. You're learning more about it. You're gradually being exposed to the depth of it, the nature of it. You take some time to go off and think about it yourselves. But you come back with this greater familiarity and a certainty, but also this kind of calmness. It's a calm temperance. This is you not getting real upset about things, no matter how they end. So, regardless of which way this goes, one of the things that I think you're going to find is you're okay with it. So let's take a closer look at this bridge thing. So remember, this was the energy that gets the two of you from where you are now to where you want to be. And you got to think about and really be able to visualize where it is that you want to be. We have a choice happening here, and we have two very different trajectories that could potentially win out. We have the union between the two of you, which is strong and a concerted effort. We have something down here that is not a particularly concerted effort. It is an unbalanced effort, but it works against the two of you becoming partners in any sort of way. It works against even a decent friendship. I'm noticing. I'm in that. There's no give in that energy, on the part of the Queen of Pentacles. And it's like you see her guarding a nest here. I mean, it's that sort of energy. That's why I keep coming back to the idea of the wife and kids, even though for sure your person may not have a wife and kids, there is a concept, there is some kind of energy that is making them shrink away and with fear and say, but I have to hold on to this. So let's look at that bridge energy that does help to move the two of you. And remember, this is shared, because even though your lessons are a little bit not the same, your lessons are a little bit different from one another. A lot of what you have to get through to get to them is going to be shared. So you have the 10 of Pentacles. Okay. And I'm going to say this is like definition of 10 of Pentacles. So remember, the 10 of Pentacles is like that perfect household that has everything that you need, all of the resources, people are taken care of. The King and Queen of Pentacles are the heads of household for the 10 of Pentacles here. But it's a balanced King and Queen of Pentacles, ideally, as opposed to the one that we see here. So let's go ahead and look at this. The other card that came out here was the Two of Cups in reverse, and I feel like that's it's a reference to this Two of Cups in reverse, and this was the two of you not being allowed to have a partnership. But this one is, I acknowledge that the two of us may not be able to have the type of partnership that we had hoped for, but we'll clarify. I think that acknowledgement is part of what matters here as you are crossing that bridge from the energy that you're in right now to the energy where you want to go. Okay, so let's look at the 10 of Pentacles first and the clarifiers. We have the 10 of Pentacles, which is that happy household with everything. We have the 3 of Pentacles, which is cooperation. Okay, so this is working together. We saw some working together here, but this is it reiterated here, and this is Ace of Wands. So this is this same card, but in the reverse. Basically, this is the two of you working together to create what ends up being your 10 of Pentacles. But remember when I said this is the definition of, like, I have been calling it the happy household, and I talk about the resources being sufficient. Well, you guys may have a different definition of the 10 of Pentacles between the two of you, and it's going to be about you cooperating about what that truly means for you. And then, maybe use this energy, this fire, passion energy, that you've been kind of told that you can't go toward it. To go towards something, so that energy doesn't just go away because it's been challenged. There's still the two of you working together. There's still the two of you wanting to move forward. And it's kind of this realization that you can define, and then that redefinition of the overall situation. So that's part of what has to happen as you cross this bridge. But the other piece is, I really get the sense that you guys have to be able to be okay with what happens or doesn't happen. So This is like releasing the outcomes. Let's see what comes out here in the cards, though. So it's this one and this one, the way that they came out. Sometimes when they come out, I'm able to say, oh, here, these two are particularly sticking out to me, and this is what we got to do. So, Two of Cups in reverse. We've got the Knight of Cups, which is that this Knight of Cups feels a little bit communicating. So, there's a lot of passion and it's creativity, love. This Knight of Cups feels like a Page of Cups, but it's also a card of action, and it's a loving action. And this Four of Pentacles is about letting go. And so it's about being, when as you're crossing this bridge, you're going to have a little bit of an element of being able to let go, release what's happening. So one of the mantras in my meditation, I did a meditation video a while back, and I mentioned having some mantras, but I didn't get into what they all were. One of the mantras that I use, I open with, is release. And it's the way that it works is I release attachments, expectations, and assumptions to people, situations, and outcomes. And that's truly what this is. It's releasing your attachment to this person, your assumptions about the situation, or your expectations around the outcome and everything in between. So that's part of what has to happen as you're crossing this bridge. But it's also part of, like, I feel like it is happening to a certain degree, maybe especially with you, because it's part of that sense of you lifting yourself out of the anxiety and rising above it, you know? And so this also is part of what has to happen for your person, though, because they've got to, this up here is probably more, I mean, it's both of you, but it feels very relevant to them because remember, they are not connected with their intuition at this time because they're numbing themselves because they've got this situation here that makes them feel like they are stable and need to stay right where they are and better not change anything. Well, they are going to have to, we know this is non traditional. And this choice is forcing that realization, but it's forcing it slowly because initially you guys would have looked at this and been like, what? No, I'm not doing that. And so it ends up being, hold on, you actually have like this deep soul tie, which you guys are realizing now. That's part of what's illuminating, and you need to reestablish your balance after you discover that. So that's what's happening here. But there's a lot of passion to move toward one another. And so here we see you putting your heads together, working together as a team. This is an enormous struggle, but you align your resources together. And see, a lot of times on the Chariot card, you'll see like it's two horses, let's say, and they're heading in opposite directions. These guys aren't. That's one of the things that that I see about that. It's like it's just one more indication that you guys are working together, working together, working together, you know, to bring forth this passionate beauty that you have to define because things are a little unorthodox here. You have a choice to make, and that choice, one of the choices you have to make is do we just abandon this entirely or do we join forces and figure something out? And so I feel like that's, you know, maybe part of what's happening there, despite the fact that you've got something that's very much working against you here and you're having to figure out. And this is part of what's forcing you to learn the lessons about release. So this is what an extended reading looks like. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here because I feel like we've illuminated some things. We've talked about, you know, what has to happen to get you across the bridge, what is actually likely to happen next because we see that change in direction but didn't know exactly what was driving it. And also, okay, so there was a lot of illumination and apparently it's really important, but kind of tell us more about what that is about and this door that's slowly opening so that we can gradually get used to the ideas. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here. If you appreciated, if you liked the flow of the extended, just so you know, this is typically how they go. So I love the thank you readings because some people don't have the opportunity to get extended, and so at least I want you to be able to have one once in a while, just a chance for me to say thank you. Otherwise, this is what you get. The second half of this is what you get when you click on the link underneath a reading that has an extended. And they don't all have them, but Many of them do. A lot of the pick a cards, you almost can't not do one because you almost don't get enough information. You like ask for so much energy to come in that you get there and suddenly there's just all these questions that come out. So I almost just assume I'm going to see those. But as for the other ones, sometimes we have an extended and sometimes we don't, depending on how concise the message is that comes out. So thank you for being here with me. Of course, please like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined, and I will see you in another reading.